Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. I want to start by just reminding who your JIUPK team is here, as if you don't know this, but standard operating procedure. Drew, next one. There you go. So I don't think Shay is on with us, but she is back off of maternity leave, and she has a cute little guy to join the other two of her home team. Myself as a consultant, Heather Mayhew as a family resource navigator, Carla Rivera Ramirez as a family resource navigator. Drew is on with us today, and he's running the PowerPoint and jack of all trades. And then Ryan is also on with us today, and he is the JI data specialist. So that's who you have today. So what we're going to do is we're going to do CDEC updates. I have edited those a little bit because we got them much earlier in the month, but I've left the stuff that's relevant. We're going to talk about UPK by the numbers. We're going to do year one reminders, then year two, what's different from year one, and talk about resources, and then we're going to answer your questions. So we're going to try to manage the questions a little bit differently. The next two roundtables that we have, centers and family child care homes, can sometimes be absolutely crazy. And so you're going to be our guinea pigs in terms of trying to see if we can manage questions in this particular way. So we're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat as they come up. So you can do it stream of consciousness as I'm talking about something and you're thinking, yeah, but what about this? And then you can put in we'd like you to start it with the subject of the question, then ask the question. And as we start to go through them, if we need more clarification on the question, we'll ask you to unmute and explain the question further. And of course, we'll do a free-for-all in the end if we have more time. But hopefully we will have gotten through all of your questions. So let's try that. And if it works well here, then maybe it'll work well in the other two sessions that we have today and my head won't explode. Okay, let's go on to the next one, please. So these are the CDEC updates. It's payment support, grant notifications, metrics enroll, CDEC connections. We're going to do a little bit on tax credit outreach for the simple reason that they put it in there. And so I feel some obligation to include it. And then program setup forms, which I'm not even sure I left that in there. So that may be something that needs to be edited. But let's move on to payment support. Go ahead. So remember that providers are able to elevate any payment concerns directly to Metrics IQ. And this is where you submit a ticket. We're always happy to remind you that you should submit a ticket to Metrics IQ when you ask a question about payment, but we really can't help you. So you do have to submit it to Metrics IQ. Next. And then they now have, and you will have seen it in the provider handbook too, that metrics enroll for universal preschool payments. There is an opportunity to have your own personal Metrics IQ account and to get your specific payment reports there. So there's more explanation in the provider handbook as to how to do this. It kind of gives you the links and walks you through that. So if you have not already done it yet, I would strongly suggest that you do that. We believe that there's going to be some kind of a true up in June, and we want to make sure that you have all of the information that you need to make that happen. And we'll talk further about that true up a little bit later. Next. So capacity building grants, if those of you who were eligible for those, you should have been hearing from CDEC and Metrics IQ on those. So again, these slides will all be posted on the UPK page. So you can always go back and look at these slides and see if any of this pertains to you and what to do next. Next. Go ahead. So, they want to remind you to stay connected with CDEC. My guess is that you already are, but once again, these forms and these links will be up on the UPK page. Next. Tax credit outreach, there's a lot of tax credits for families available for families. If you want to be part of helping families to access tax credits and tax rebates, there is a whole toolkit that is part of this. Drew, you can go on. And you can access that toolkit and provide information out to families about this. The state's concern is that most families who are eligible, a lot of families who are eligible for these do not apply for these. And so they would still like to make sure that families are aware of it. Next. There is an early childhood educator credit that I left in here because I wanted to make sure that you were all aware of it. So the early childhood educator must hold an early childhood credential from CDEC to be eligible. And then how to refer again, if you go to getaheadcolorado.org, that is the link for all of the marketing materials, etc. And also where families can make appointments to have someone help them with their taxes. Next. Provider setup form. You guys already know about this. You have already done it. Just wanted to make sure no one here has missed the deadline, so we don't even need to worry about that. But this may be a little bit more relevant for the next two sessions. So, okay. And then current year portal troubleshooting. They wanted you to know that if you're experiencing difficulties with any actions in the portal, such as enrollment, please first log out and back into the portal. This ensures that any updates have been refreshed. And if you are still experiencing an issue, take a screenshot and connect with us, and we'll see what we can do for you. Okay. So this is Ryan's. We wanted to now go into UPK by the numbers and talk to you a little bit about what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Ryan?
Well, yeah, all righty. Well, good morning, everybody. As Noreen said, this is just a brief summary of the UPK Year 2 provider setup here in El Paso County. So we are very proud to announce that so far 201 providers have registered for Year 2. We are also very proud to announce that 96% of our providers from Year 1 have registered for Year 2. This does put El Paso County above the state target for provider retention. 28 new providers have registered here in El Paso County for Year 2, and 15 of those new providers are in high need areas. Those are areas with less than 70% access to a UPK provider. So there are currently just shy of 6,200 registered UPK seats for Year 2. This has increased access in El Paso County up to 66%. This is 4% away from the benchmark of 70% for universal access. If anybody's curious where that benchmark comes from, that actually does come from the National Institute for Early Education Research. So that's the benchmark that we've been using here in El Paso County for universal access. This is an increase over 11% for Year 1, so we're very excited about that. Areas of El Paso County that could still use some help are 80916 and 80910. These areas have definitely seen some increase in seats and providers, and we're very, very happy about that. But they could still use some help. It's still below around 50% on average. These zip codes have the highest concentrations of 4-year-olds in El Paso County, very large military populations, and have among the highest youth poverty in the county. This is primarily District 2. So we are very, very excited about how we are set up for Year 2. Lots of new providers, really great retention rates. So we are in a great position for Year 2.
Next slide.
So we've been able to collect some really interesting data given the way that the programs have been set up. So I'm sure you were all familiar when you were setting up your profiles, you had to go in and specify what types of seats you were going in. And this has really been able to, or has enabled us to get a really, really great picture of how seats are distributed in El Paso County. So 24% of the UPK seats in El Paso County are actually IEP seats. 20% of the UPK seats are full day seats. 16% of UPK seats are other hour type seats. So D49, for example, all of their programs are 12 hours. And then around 24 private providers also have hours that are different from 10, 15, or 30 hours. We have 13% of UPK seats are half-day PM seats. 10% of UPK seats are extended day seats. 9% are half-day AM. 7% are part-time AM, and then 1% are those brand new part-time PM seats.
Next.
And so this is just a visual of how this is broken down, like I said. So, so this is just, if any of you are curious to just kind of see this in a visual form, this is how this is visualized. So this is something that we've been really working on, kind of giving our community a better idea of, these are kind of the seats that you can possibly be expecting in different areas. We're also going to be mapping these out for year 2 so that we can know in which zip codes all of these seats are distributed as well. We're hoping that that's going to help our navigators when they're connecting with families and looking at, potentially after maybe 1 or 2 of those DAAs have run and if families are on wait lists and still need assistance. We're hoping that these resources that we're developing right now are going to be really helpful for our navigators for year 2 so that they can help families even further.
Thank you, Ryan. So if any of you have any questions about any of those numbers, I think we'll stop at this point and because it's a manageable group here, and let you unmute and ask your question. Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. All right, so we're going to do some quick year 1 reminders because we're not finished with year 1 yet. Reminding everybody that only children who were 4 years old prior to October 1, 2023, or the year before kindergarten, depending upon the current school cutoff date, are eligible for UPK during the current year, regardless of whether they turn 4 after October 1. Children who are in their 2 years before kindergarten during the current school year can only receive UPK support from their home school district. And new applicants can still apply. We are reviewing applications weekly as they come in and sending them to where they need to go. And if the family has multiple choices, we're sending it to the Family Resource Navigator and asking them to reach out to the family and see if they can find a seat for the family based on what it is that they would like to have happen. Next. So drops and unenrollments for your program. Remember that you have to unenroll kiddos within 1 week if the child withdraws and the family stops communicating. You need to make sure that you have documentation on an outreach and then unenroll within 1 week. And this is not anything you need to worry about. The next bullet, this is for private providers. Next. And the payment schedule and issues, remember that Metrics IQ is your go-to if you're having issues. You guys already know that the payment report is pulled at the end of the day on the 15th of each month. Reminder that there's no UPK support over the summer, but you guys don't offer summer services anyway. And we are told that there is going to be a true up in June for any providers who were not paid correctly. And any concerns or issues should be submitted to Metrics IQ. I did have one private provider today who reached out to me and said, if the last payment is going to be on May 6th, then that to me says that I'm not going to be paid in May, and therefore I'm going to go back to full payment. And basically what I told her to do was look at the totality of the child and the payments that they have received for the number of months that the child is there. And the amount that they actually should have received would be equal to, and this is me saying this as a basis for submitting something to Metrics IQ and to advocating for yourself. In my opinion, I would look to see what you received based on when there were partial payments and then when there were no partial payments, and look at it based on the 10 hours that you should have been receiving, 10-hour payments of 47.35 or 15-hour payments of 59.17. So take the monthly rate and then advocate for yourself if you were not paid enough based on what you believe you should have been paid for the services that you provided. Melissa will get to that. Okay, next. So you all know we're going into year 2 now. You all know that that version 1 of the UPK provider guide has been released. And if you did not see the UPK newsletter or didn't get an email yourself, this guide can also be found on the UPK page, the JI UPK page. And the topics included in the guide are program overview, key terms, key partners, enrollment process, funding and financing, and marketing resources. Next. Okay, so the major differences between year 1 and year 2. This year, they're going to do priority enrollment, also known as pre-registration or continuity of care. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. The matching algorithm will only be run twice, at least that's the plan at this point, and it's expected to be April and July, followed by a return to walk-in status in either late July or August. Children in their 2 years before kindergarten without an IEP, gen ed students, will be sent directly to the school district for placement and will not go through the UPK system. So 3-year-olds, you guys are on your own, okay? And I'm told that when a 3-year-old without an IEP attempts to register in the UPK system, that something will pop up telling them to go directly to their school district. I also think at this point that we will put contact information up on the UPK page for the school district for 3-year-olds. So if there is a particular place that you want 3-year-olds to be directed to, we need to know that so that we can get the right thing up on the page. And so you can send it to me at nglt@mac.com, and I'll make sure that the communication is correct. If you want them to go directly to a web page or an enrollment page, give us that link. Basically tell us what you want to have happen with the 3-year-olds who are gen ed, and then we will get that posted. And then the kiddos with an IEP, the 3-year-olds with an IEP will have to register through the system. Okay. And as soon as they put IEP in there, they're heading down another bucket, basically another path. Okay. So we at JI should not be dealing with applications of anything except for 4-year-olds, kids their year before kindergarten. And of course, 4-year-olds who come in and state that they have an IEP will also be going to that bucket. And the state will work with you as the school district /AU to determine where those kids get placed in your IEP seats that have been held out directly for you to place children with IEPs in there. All right, Melissa, you have a question? I need you to unmute, please.
That is helpful. On the 3-year-olds, if they're not filling out a UPK application, what's the verification that they are actually eligible?
It's up to you. Up to you completely.
Okay.
Because you're getting it. The reason that they did that is because you're getting a bucket of money to serve 3-year-olds in whatever way you choose to. Okay, so it's no longer going through the UPK system because you get to set your own priorities for 3-year-olds who get free services. Okay, so that restriction is no longer on there. It's completely up to you.
Okay, so then, okay. All right, I'm going to process that one.
I'm sorry?
I'm going to process that one.
Yeah. So, you guys need to set up your own system for how you're going to handle 3-year-olds, and you need to set up your priorities for who's going to get seats and who's not. It's basically, Melissa, it's back to the old days before UPK for 3-year-olds. And if you think of it that way, there you go. Okay. Coming up on that, what happens to applications that are submitted between the algorithm runs? Okay, we'll get to that too. All right, next. Okay, this is hard to see, but if you actually pull up your priority, I'm sorry, your provider guide, this is a page in there. It's page 8 in the provider guide. Is there any possibility, Drew, that you can make this a little bigger? I can barely see it. All right, as he's working on that. So this is the enrollment timeline, estimated timeline. So we're almost out of February. That was the provider program set up. So provider registration, I'm sorry, family registration starts on February 29th. And pre-registration and open registration are happening at the same time. Okay, thanks. That'll do. And then the pre-registration period is February 29th to March 28th. If a family who has priority misses that window, to the best of our knowledge at this point, they no longer have priority. They are then going into the algorithm bucket. Okay. And the folks who do not have priority, those applications will be coming in and nothing will happen to them until after the priority enrollment is over. So after March 28th. So all of your seats that you have for priority kids will be taken care of in March. After that, any seats you have left over are going through the algorithm, except for IEP seats. Those go into another bucket. Okay, so I think my next one, go to the next slide, will you, please? Slide 32.
Bear with me, technical difficulty apparently.
Yeah, 3 buckets. There you go.
Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so if you think about applications going into one of 3 buckets, the priority apps are from February 29th to March 28th. And so what's going to happen with those is once a week, you are going to, and it could be more frequent than that, but I doubt it. Once a week, you're going to get a list through your portal like you normally do. You're going to see the folks that have signed up with you with priority. Okay. And those you're going to go through and you're going to accept or decline those children. So the bottom line is there's a possibility that somebody who does not have priority could certainly go in and sign up with you and say they do. Okay. And they're going to come through to you. And so you're going to have to compare that to your priority list and say, yes, you do, or no, you don't. Okay. And if they don't, then they will go back into the Gen Ed no priority pool, the 3rd bucket, for to be run through the algorithm. Okay. If they do, then after March 28th, they're going to be hard placed in one of your seats. Okay. So that's what's going to happen with the priority folks. So please remember that it does not matter whether a family signs up on February 29th or they sign up on March 28th. As long as they sign up during that time and you say they have priority, they are going into a priority seat. All right. Children with IEPs, they can sign up throughout the year, of course, and the state works with the AAU for or school district for direct placement. So that's between you and the state. And then Gen Ed, no priority. That enrollment starts on February 29th. And then nothing will happen with those until after priority placement is done. The algorithm will be run in April and July. And once again, the matching is based on a lottery. It is not first come, first serve. It's based on a lottery. And then after July, after the second algorithm runs, then we will go back to walk-in status, which is what we're in right now. Okay, next. So before we move on from there, there is a question here about so Karen, I think I answered your question. Algorithm dates, are there dates published for when declines need to be completed? No, those will be published after prior to the algorithm being run, but again, you will be given at least a week before you have to it'll be like this year, except there's only going to be 2 algorithms instead of 8. Okay. And so so you'll be given a certain period of time, just like this year, to go through your matches and say yes, no, whatever. And then only then will the family be notified that they have a match. They won't be able to see it between the time that the algorithm ran and the time that the match is published.
Can I ask a follow-up? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm worried about the July timeline because it's going to be really hard to get all of that done and get students enrolled and ready for August to start. So is it going to be early in the month? Are we going to get weekly matches? Do you know yet?
Don't know.
Okay.
I would assume that the July one will be fairly early in the month. And you'll get all of the matches right after that. All of the proposed matches right after that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So the other thing was, the other question was about the link, the direct priority link. So it is my understanding that what is happening right now is that programs are being set up based on the setup forms that were submitted. It is also my understanding, based on the last call we had with the state, that they will be sending out to you for review the programs that they have set up before they publish them. So to make absolutely sure that what they have set up is what you want. Okay. Then they will be published, and this will all be before the 29th, I'm told. And at that point, when they are published, you will be able to access an invite link. And that invite link is by program and by site, by license, basically. Okay. And so you would be able to send to a particular family the opportunity for them to enroll in a half-day program at Bear Creek, where you have a spot for that kid, where they have priority status. And then what will happen is, if they use that link, it will be pre-populated for them. That choice will be pre-populated as number 1. Okay. They can still add in other choices, but if you confirm them as having priority there, they are going to be placed there. If they move it out of number 1 and put something else in there where they don't have priority, now they're going in the algorithm. so that they will lose their priority. Okay. They also can sign up through the normal portal and still say that they have priority at a given place. So if you don't want to wait for the link, you can tell them to go in and sign in. And remember, this is not first come, first serve. They have between February 29th and March 28th to complete their enrollment. So while I get that some families put it off for a while and maybe there's 2 or 3 communications that need to happen from you, we're not in a panic situation at this point. There is, if you get the link on the 28th, they still have plenty of time to sign up. So, but they can go through the UPK portal and state that, they have priority with you at X program, and it's still going to come through to you as a priority student. They don't have to use that link in order to enroll. It's just that the link pre-populates for them. Okay, so they can sign up either way. And if they state they have priority, they're coming through to you to say, yes, they do, or no, they don't. All right. So if you're anxious and you want to start sending things out to people and saying, hey, this opens up on, February 29th, we have a priority placement for you at this particular place. This is what you do to take advantage of that. You can go ahead and just say, sign into your account at upk.colorado.gov and do this if you don't want to wait for the link. Okay. All right, so that's how the link is going to happen. And it will not be there until your programs are published. And they're not going to be published until, as I'm told at this point, until you sign off that that what they have set up for you is what you want and it's correct. I would really encourage you to look through that list and make sure it is correct, because I've already caught a couple of times where the setup form saved wrong. And unless we go through absolutely every setup form and double check them, there's a possibility that something may have gone wrong. So make sure you check that stuff when it comes to you. What happens if families put in an application both ways? My guess would be that I don't think they're going to be able to, because they can only access I don't think they're going to be able to, because when they sign into their account, as long as they're using the same and by the way, every family is going to have to use an email address. They're not going to be able to use a phone number this time around. They have to have an email address. So if you find out from a family that they don't have an email address, tell them to set one up, and maybe somebody can, develop some quick instructions on how to set it up, how to set up an email. That's pretty easy to do. So everybody needs to have an email address. So if you're signing up using an email address, then you only have one account. So I think you can only go in and do it once. So we'll see what happens with that. If for some reason they're able to submit 2 different ones, they're going to come to you as the same kid twice. And one of them you're going to decline, right? So I think there's some checks and balances in there. 3-year-olds with IEP, aren't they included in UPK? They are included in, they must sign up within UPK. And immediately they will go to into the IEP bucket. And so those are folks that the state will work with you directly to place. Carol, I'm not sure I answered your question. So if you want to clarify that, please unmute and do so.
Noreen, I'm just trying to make sure that we still guide our families that have the 3-year-olds that just qualified for an IEP to UPK.
Right. So they would need to create an account if they don't already have one, just like a 4-year-old.
Right,
then I-
just like we're doing this year, but they'll
Right.
do it the same way next year.
Yes,
And
but
we'll only have
only,
that one bucket for IEP students that are 3-year-olds.
they go into the IEP bucket period through the UPK system. And then whether they're 3 or 4. So the challenge, I think what they're trying to solve, the problem that they're trying to solve is the fact that, first of all, Gen Ed 3-year-olds often went in and were able to choose 4-year-old programs, which caused a serious mess for all of us, right? And so 3-year-olds that don't have an IEP are immediately going to be sent to their local school district. And so there'll be something that pops up that says, the only way you can be served is through your local school district, contact them, kind of thing. Okay. The kids with IEPs still have to sign up just like they did this year. But immediately, once it says that there's an IEP in there and they submit, it will go directly to their home school district. Along with the 4-year-olds going directly to the home school district.
Okay, let me clarify, because this year our 3-year-olds just went into one massive bucket when they had an IEP. And our 4-year-olds that had IEPs went to the specific school that we slotted them to. So now we're just going to have a bucket with all IEPs with no school specific?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And then you guys manage that with
Sure,
the
sure.
with the with the folks from the state.
Will
Right.
that, how will that impact payments? Will we have an IEP payment and then just Gen Ed payments for 4-year-olds?
Well,
how will that look?
That's what you're getting right now. You're getting Gen Ed payments for 4-year-olds, and then you're getting IEP payments separately.
Okay, I just haven't seen the 4-year-old. Well, no, I get paid. I don't get it paid separately because they're all 15 hours, and in my 4-year-old payments, it just has every student. It doesn't designate which one of my students have IEPs in my payments.
Yes, correct. So your base payment is for all 4-year-olds based on the number of hours that you're serving them, right? That's your base payment. And then there's a separate payment that comes from CDE or someplace for your IEP students. So that's all I know about that, Carol.
Okay.
Okay. So they're 2 separate payments and they're coming from 2 different places. All right. So the payment schedule for the coming year, the rates at this point are proposed to be 2% increase. This has still not been passed yet by the Joint Budget Committee and probably won't be until closer to the end of the session, but nobody feels like there's going to be any opposition to this. So next slide, please. So your part-time rate will be $483.01 per month times 10 months. And your half-day rate will be $603.57 per month times 10 months. And then full-day rate for any child that qualifies that's actually in a fuller extended day program will be $1,067.92 per month. And yeah, if any of you are charging additional fees above and beyond UPK, you have to publish those this year. So if you have any questions about that, you can contact me directly. So the previous page that was up there is also in the provider handbook. So I would really suggest that you take a quick look at that and make sure you understand what's happening there. It is my understanding that that the state is planning to pay basically in arrears this year, that there will not be any quote unquote advance payment like there was this year. So that has not been released yet. So, but we have been told that that is what is being considered, so that your first payment would actually happen in September for kids you served in August, and then you would be paid all the way through June. Okay, next. There's a bunch of marketing tools out there. It's in the provider handbook if you are interested in trying to access some marketing tools to let people know that you are a UPK provider. This is not as relevant to school districts as it is to the private providers, but just wanted to make sure you know it was there. Next. Please stay up to date with everything that's up on the joininitiatives.org/UPK page. If we have received it from the state, it is up there. And sometimes it takes a day or two, but not long. And the provider guide, as I said, is up there. The recordings for all of the roundtables will be up there, and will be up there. And make sure you're looking at the UPK newsletter. And then, as always, you can contact us if you need any assistance. So let's stop sharing at this point and see what other questions you have. Melissa looks confused. Karen just unmuted. What can I do for you, Karen?
So when I was looking through the provider guide, it talked about the programmatic preferences and that we need to submit a request for if we're maintaining boundaries. So we're not accepting kids outside our boundaries. Do we need to do that this year? I did that last year and I was told I didn't need to have that, but I'm really confused on the wording in the guide.
All right, so can you restate that in another way? I know that you requested 2 specific declinations for Grand Mountain and whatever the other one was.
Webster.
Right.
Yep.
Is
So
that what you're referring to?
no, so this one so we only take kids that live within our school district boundaries. And it said in the guide that we needed to submit a request for a programmatic preference if we are a school district maintaining a boundary. It's something that would be approved. So is that an extra step that I need to take to make sure I have that declination, or is that already going to be in there?
No, the declaration will already be in there because you checked it in your setup form.
Okay.
Okay, so it's already going to be in there. Good question.
Thank you. And then I had another one, and I don't remember where in the guide it was, but it said create district enrollment applications. And I don't know what they meant by that. Let me see if I can find it.
I think basically all they're saying is, once a family is matched with you, then obviously they have to go through your process of enrolling with you. I can't imagine, I didn't see that, but I can't imagine it means anything else other than that. But I will go through and read it a little bit more carefully, and if I need it, I'll ask for clarification, but I think that's what they're saying.
Thank you so much.
Melissa, just a minute, Carol. Melissa, did you want to ask a question?
No, I'm good. I'm just kind of processing everything, trying to figure out how to get it done.
Yeah, okay. Carol?
Just a quick question. We're building our emails to send to our families that are returning.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure that we have the right verbiage. I tried to look in the current website, but the continuity of care, is that the verbiage that it's going to say on the website itself, or is there going to use another term, returning, or because we want to use the exact words so when the parents see it, they'll know that's what they're supposed to click.
Let me ask, because I'm not sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Wording. I think they're going to call it continuity of care. But you also want to be sure that you're defining continuity of care in the same way that they are. And I do believe in the handbook, there is a definition of continuity of care in there. In fact, I'm sure there is, and might be under key terms.
Okay,
And so, but let me check to be sure that that's actually what they're using.
thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate it. Yes.
So Barb says, my listening was interrupted. Could you clarify what happens to applications between the matching runs? They sit there until the next algorithm. Nothing happens to them until the next algorithm. They store up and then they're run through the next algorithm. Can you see them? I have no idea. My guess would be no, but I'll ask. I'm writing, hold on. Okay. All right, Melissa?
I'm still processing the pre-registration since we offer two different, I'm not sure I'm going to use the right term, programs. We have a 11-hour and a 15-hour. When the families are putting in their applications, are they able to select which one based on their preferences? Or if they're in if they're in the 11-hour this year, then that's what they get for next year?
No, it's up to you. So you get to tell them where you have a priority seat for them. And so you say to them, this is where I have a seat for you in this particular program. If you want that seat, this is that's what you put first, because that's where you have priority. And you can put other seats underneath there if you want to, but this is where we have a seat for you.
Okay.
Okay. And it is by program. It's by license and then broken down by program. Okay. So, if the links that you're going to get, it's my understanding, because we haven't seen it yet either. The link that you're going to get is, so if you have, let's say Bear Creek, and you have a spot for somebody at Bear Creek, and you have a spot for them in your, essentially part-time program, right? Then and you do not have a spot for them in your half-day program. So basically, if you want them to use the link, you send them the link for the part-day program. And you say, and it's going to pre-populate with the part-day program only as number one choice. Okay. If they move it out of number one and put something else in there, they're now going through the algorithm. Because that's not where you have priority.
And if they fill out the universal application,
Same thing.
how will
It's gonna come to you as them stating that they have priority there, and then you can decline that and say, no, that's not where you have priority.
okay, that might be my solution then. All right.
Okay.
Because we always give parents choice which program they want, and it's their choice.
Well, good luck with that. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how you could manage that.
I think I can manage it by not providing the link unless somebody is specifically asking for it. If they fill out the UPK application and say they have priority in Bear Creek's half-day program, because that's what they want, and they were a Bear Creek family, then I can just say, yes, I agree that that's what it was. And
exactly.
and I think that as opposed to now, which program do you want? Which link do you get?
Right,
I think
exactly.
those cause too much.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely. You're better having them go through the UPK application instead of the priority link, but telling them that you have a seat for them at Bear Creek, and
Yeah.
that's where they have to choose Bear Creek and then choose their program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Carol?
Another confusing one. We have some of our kiddos that qualified for IEPs that will still be 3 for next year. So they should not be included in the continuity of care because they won't be for 4. Should we just go directly to our state rep and say these kids are continuing at this school in the morning because they will just be 3 years old? They won't be the 4.
Yes, so they have to go through the application process and put in that they have an IEP. And then at that point, they're gonna go to the IEP bucket. And the state will work with you as to where you want those kids placed. So my guess is that you'll have some sort of a form, just like you have now, that you're supposed to submit with all kids with IEPs and where you want them placed. Okay,
Okay.
but that goes to the state in just like it does now, instead of coming to us or the family choosing.
But should we still send them that link so they are funneled to that school, even though they are going to be in a 3-year-old classroom and not a 4-year-old classroom? I just don't want them to take one of our 4-year-old spots.
They're not going to take one of your 4-year-old spots because they're your spots and it's up to you as to
Okay.
where they go.
So as
So
long as they click that IEP, we're good.
right. So if they take a 4-year-old spot, it's because you put them in one. Okay.
Okay.
It's not the state. I mean, the state is doing what you tell them to do.
Okay.
Okay. But they're just making sure that legally this is being addressed the way it needs to be addressed. Which is why they don't like us touching anything with an IEP in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anita, you look like you have your hand up.
Yeah, I can't find my computer hand on my computer, so technical difficulties. So I'm still struggling to understand 3-year-olds application. Is the application system not going to reject them because they're not 4? Because, in the past, if they didn't meet criteria, the application said, I'm sorry, you're not eligible.
Right.
So if this out now, it's not going to do that?
No. Any child who is not 4 by whatever school cutoff date is being followed with where they live, something will pop up at that point and says, I'm sorry, you need to go to your school district. Okay. And that'll be it. That'll be it.
Okay, but you said the IEP kids have to apply through the UPK system. How are they going to
Yes.
do that? The system
Right.
tells them to us.
All right, let's break this down for 3-year-olds into 2 buckets. Okay. There's the 3-year-old gen ed bucket that if the family goes in and applies and they do not click that the child has an IEP, there's going to be something that comes up that says, you're not eligible for universal preschool. Please go directly to your school district. Okay. The kids with IEPs won't get that, and it'll get funneled to the IEP bucket up at the state that then will work with you for placement. So there's some sub buckets. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna have to actually see that. I really have a hard time wrapping my head around what that looks like and how to guide parents when they
Right.
can't get into the system, when they keep telling me, no, the system tells me I'm not eligible.
Well, again, we're still in year 1, not in year 2. And eligibility for year 1 is based on low income and based on, not being 4 by October 1, 2023. And so that's year 1. So if we still have 3-year-olds that are enrolling in year 1 in the year 1 system, if they're not low income, then they're gonna be told that they're not eligible. If they are low income, then the only thing that they can choose is their school district. And we send it through to you when we get a new application saying, but in general, we don't get the 3-year-old applications anymore. We're only dealing with new 4-year-olds. So you may have a 3-year-old that comes into you and says, you know, I can't get into the system, or I can't register, or whatever. And you just have to, if it's a 3-year-old for this particular year that you want to serve for the last 2 months, you know, you can contact me and say, they've tried to start this, it won't go through. Can you fix it? And then I can address that. So that's the current year that we're in. The year coming up for year 2, it's your choice who it is you serve for 3-year-olds. It's really that simple, period, end of sentence. So let's say I have a 3-year-old, okay? I have a kid who's not going to be 4 by October 1. And that child does not have an IEP, okay? I'm gonna go in and sign up. And then the system is gonna say, oh, Mrs. Landis Tyson, your child is not eligible for universal preschool support. Please contact your school district directly. Okay, your home school district. And then it's not going to go anywhere in the system. It's done. Okay. If my child has an IEP and I go in and sign up and I click IEP, it's not going to say go to your school district. It's going to funnel it to the IEP bucket that is then going to work with you as the child's home school district to figure out where the kid gets placed. I'm not sure how else to make it clear. I haven't seen it yet either, but that's what Ryan and I were both told on our last Southeast call that was going to happen.
We'll just have to wait and try it out.
Yep. Karen?
We'll figure it.
Yeah. Karen?
So this is going back to 4-year-olds with IEPs. So with the priority enrollment, if all IEP students are going into one bucket, do they still, if I send them a link to their program, do they still get priority placement at that program, or will they just come to me and I put them where they need to go?
I'm not exactly sure how that is going to work, but remember that the IEP seats are no longer in the UPK system in terms of any kind of matching or anything of that sort. They are out of the system. The only matching is going to happen with gen ed seats. Okay, so all right, let's talk about priority buckets. Okay, you have a priority list that you have for gen ed kiddos, right? That you have said, yes, you meet, you know, you have priority status and I want you directly placed into a seat at this particular place, right? But then you also have IEP seats, which are not running through the algorithm, and they are completely between you and whoever is managing this mess at the state, to figure out where that child is going to get services. So if you want to be careful, because you don't want an IEP student placed in a gen ed priority seat. Okay. So you don't want to give those up. So I would not send them I would not say you have priority here. Instead, I would say go in and enroll. Make sure you put in there an IEP, and this is where we're going to want you to be served. If that works for you, put that as your one and only choice.
All right, thank you.
Carol?
When we set up our profile, we did have to state how many were going to be saved in the classroom for students with IEPs and then our gen ed seats.
Correct.
So wouldn't we want them to at least select the school and put both continuity of care and a student with an IEP, so they'll funnel to that school?
So I think I just said that.
I thought you said that you don't want them to do that.
Okay. Okay. What we don't want is for them to take up a priority gen ed seat. Okay.
Right.
So what I would do instead is I would communicate directly to that family and say, we have an IEP seat for you at X school. Please put that in as your only choice and put in that you have an IEP, and then march on.
So you don't want us to send them that link that already has that school as their first choice?
I'm not sure I would do that, because what I'm afraid of is that they would end up taking, in the system, they would end up taking up a priority gen ed seat. So
So-
instead I would have them go in and register through the UPK system. Okay, just the regular one. Make sure that they put in an IEP and make sure that they put only the choice, that their only choice is the program and school where you have a seat.
So why wouldn't we send them the link? Because that's exactly what they would be doing in the UPK portal. I'm just trying to
Carol-
understand, because we've already
Carol,
built our
you can-
emails.
Carol, you can try it. But what I'm concerned about is that they'll end
Sure.
up taking up a gen ed priority seat.
Okay.
So you just don't get to come back to me and tell me I have to fix it.
You love me anyway. You'll help me. I know you will.
But I'm never going to let you forget that I told you to do it another way. All right. Who else? Anybody else have questions? Okay, we're gonna call it a morning then, and as is always the case, you know where to find us. And please keep an eye on you get a lot of communications for as AUs and school districts that we don't get. So, at any point along the line, if you're hearing something different from the state than what you've heard from us, would greatly appreciate it if you would check in with us so that I can make absolutely sure that what we're being told matches what you're being told. And then we can go from there. But what you have the most up-to-date information that we have. So. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. And as I said, you know where to find us. Take care.